Potential new AEW signings, also some big surprises for Dynasty and Forbidden Door 3. We're going to talk about it right here on The Ango Show. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for stopping by. Hey, listen, we're going to kick things off with Stardom and more specifically Forbidden Door 3, because if what is being rumored happens, this could actually be a really good thing for the pro wrestling industry. Now, let's just call it what it is. This is not a new thought. This is not a new opinion. If you're a longtime viewer of this channel, then you know exactly what I'm talking about here. For years, I have been saying that AEW All In should be essentially the Forbidden Door pay-per-view. Now, it is very obvious that AEW is making All In at Wembley their version of WrestleMania, and rightfully so, I get it. However, AEW has a foundation with Forbidden Door, and now with Forbidden Door 3, it is expected that multiple promotions will be represented on this pay-per-view. And I actually think it's a good idea. I think it's the right idea, and it is truly what makes AEW stand out from WWE. Now, for those who don't know, it's no coincidence. Rossy Ogawa is out of Stardom. And because of that, you're starting to see Stardom pop up across ROH and AEW Collision. Now, I truly believe the best thing for AEW to do, and you're starting to see the preparations for it now, but let Forbidden Door 3 and 4 and 5, let that pay-per-view be the pay-per-view that represents multiple promotions across the board. This is where you can make some serious dream matches happen. And in addition to that, it allows AEW to strengthen their relationships with these other promotions. AEW has been working with NJPW. AEW has been working with CMLL. And now AEW is working with Stardom. The good news is you could continue to expand on that every year. Let's just call it what it is. WWE has WrestleMania. AEW has Wembley. And I think WWE versus AEW having stadium shows is a really good thing. AEW having Wembley is an amazing thing, and they sell tickets for it, and it's a very good thing for them. But in the same notion, I think it is actually far more impactful for AEW to continue and strengthen their relationships with other promotions, regardless if it's in a stadium or not. So yes, Stardom being involved in AEW Forbidden Door 3 makes a lot of sense. Same with CMLL, same with New Japan, and same with AEW. Now, eventually, I want to see MLW and Impact and NWA also involved, but I think it will be a while till we get there. This is what makes AEW the alternative to WWE. WWE wants to work with other companies, but it's going to be very difficult for WWE to achieve that when AEW is establishing these relationships. So the more that AEW strengthens those relationships, the more difficult it is for WWE to form relationships with those promotions as well. Now, I'm not an avid viewer of Stardom. This is pretty well known. I watch it a little bit here and there. I like the idea of what Stardom is. I like the contributions it makes to the industry. And in addition to that, one of the big things for AEW is now that you have Mercedes and you have all of these different women on the show, it's important that you continue to beef up that women's roster by working with Stardom and having people show up every once in a while. The good thing is the women's division could be a big focus, and I think that's a big win. I want to turn our attention to AEW's women's division. Nikki Garcia, formerly known as Nikki Bella, being very vocal about wanting to be in AEW. And then obviously she talks a little bit about her family and obviously having, a child and stuff like that. And she feels like it's a very difficult situation for her to come back in. But obviously she has interest going to AEW. Now, Tony Khan was talking about this on the Battleground podcast, and he says, if Nikki Garcia ever wanted to come into AEW, I would be very interested in that. I think the world of her. I have so much respect for Nicole and Brie. They are like family to us because Brian is like part of my family, and that means Brie and Nicole are part of the family. So I have so much respect for both of them, and if Nikki was interested in coming to AEW, we would love to have her here anytime. That was so great to hear. It means the world. I just like the both of them so much. I think they are really, really cool and really, really great stars, and it would add a lot to AEW if they ever wanted to come. Now, I find this to be very interesting because I don't know how the AEW hardcore fan base feels about the Bella Twins coming to AEW. However, this is actually a signing I would support for a lot of reasons because I talk a lot about business And I talk a lot about mainstream crossover potential. And the big thing here with the Bella Twins is even without the WWE, they are still incredibly successful. And that is something that people cannot forget about. That is something that you have to keep on the top of your mind when you are watching a wrestling product. If somebody could help you grow your audience, if somebody could help you expand your audience to a point where people who may not watch wrestling might want to watch wrestling, then it is a very good thing indeed. And I actually think AEW should go for the Bella Twins. Let's face it, the Bella Twins don't like the WWE anymore. They pretty much made it obvious. They've had a lot to say about the WWE publicly. I think that bridge has burned. I mean, obviously, you never say never in pro wrestling, but for now, I think that bridge has burned. When you look at the AEW women's division, you brought in Deonna Purrazzo. You got Mercedes. There's rumors of Camille coming in, right? There's so many people. You got Julia Hart, and you just have a really good women's division. So build upon it with people who are good storytellers, people who have a little bit of notoriety. And I think if you bring them in, you could see a lot of success long term. For me personally, this is a no-brainer. It really is a no-brainer. I know maybe some people would have different expectations for the way they wrestle and the way they act, but I think a lot of people, the big misconception about AEW is that it's all about wrestling. And while I think that's a very big chunk of it, I think there's room for other people that may not be the best wrestlers, but they are strong characters. They can cut promos. They got the mainstream attention. It just makes sense. The only thing that I have to mention here that is a negative is that the Bella Twins coming into AEW would not be able to use the Bella Twins name. They would have to be called the Garcia Twins or just Nikki and Brie. So that is something to keep in mind, obviously. And that brings us to AEW Dynasty. Tony Khan in AEW appears to have some surprises planned for the show. I'm very intrigued by this. I think Dynasty is a very interesting card. I think there's some matches and some stories I really enjoy, and I think there's some things I just don't enjoy. But there are things that I'm definitely looking forward to. Swerve and Samoa Joe, Bryan Danielson versus Will Ospreay. Look, let's just call it what it is. AEW brought in a lot of signings. So what surprises can we expect? Well, when speaking with Sports Illustrated, the Young Bucks talked about this very specifically. Matt Jackson says that there are big surprises happening. Expect us to put on a show. Nobody does pay-per-view like AEW. Expects big surprises. No other tag team in history constantly performs in big title matches like us, and expect us to start our historic third tag team title run, the one that'll go down as the greatest of our career. Okay, yeah, what kind of surprises they got planned? Well, I just mentioned Camille earlier. Nobody knows if she's going to WWE. Nobody knows if she's going to AEW. Sounds like she's going to AEW, right? Maybe Camille. Motor City Machine Guns. You know, the fact that the Jacksons are talking about this, I think it's important to acknowledge that Motor City Machine Guns, we talked about it yesterday. They're expected in AEW. Maybe they show up. Then I also think you gotta wonder if maybe they use this pay-per-view to catapult Forbidden Door. So maybe you start to see some invasion from New Japan, CMLL, and Stardom. I don't know. But I'm excited about it. Let's see what happens. Let me know what you guys think down below.